AC7, Engine 108, Hazmat 109, Other Level 2, District 108. 5757, Cypress Avenue, AC7, Engine 108, Hazmat 109, Operations A6.
So 5757 Cypress, two-story, large elderly living facility. The significance about this is not only the life potential of a lot of elderly ambulatory, slightly ambulatory, and non-ambulatory occupants, but that the widespread, large, unrestricted attic space. And so I highly compliment the crews to literally rely on pre-planning and the training they've conducted, the experience they have, and the mental capacity to say, we need more information. That caused them to slow down. So en route, we were an engine, truck, and battalion chief en route to a unknown fire type. Caller said there was a fire and hung up.
We had this specific call at night. It came in as a commercial structure, Hazmat 109, Engine 108. We started responding. Eric said he knew exactly where it was, and it wasn't until we started getting updates I started going, oh, okay, well, we got something here. And they started adding units and they balanced the assignment. So at that time, I started to look up the pre-fire plan, and before I knew it, we were on scene. And I told Eric, this looks like a really big place. Do you know where the atria is? And he says, yeah. And later on, there was a little confusion because I assumed the atria was a wing of this complex. I didn't know what the atria was. Later on, I found out everybody that works 109 knows where this place is. I told Eric, this looks like a really big place. I asked him once again, is the atria a wing? And he said, no, this is the complex, the atria. And then I go, okay. So we showed up, there was nothing visible, no smoke, but there was an audible alarm. So I did a quick size up, said I was investigating. We were parked right next to the FDC and a hydrant, so I knew my engineer had that. So what we did is we jumped out of the rig, and 109 showed up right at the same time.
Going there and knowing the structure, we had 5757 Cypress with no apartment number. Anyone that's worked over this way, that's a huge complex. It's two-story, it's all elderly, it's non-sprinklered, it's center hallway. Pulling up at Engine 108 and Hazmat 109 inside, trying to find it. We had no apartment number again. They went in the main entrance. I started telling units right up front to stage out on the street, because again, it's huge.
It's been a target hazard for Station 109, Battalion 7, for 31 years that I've been here. So there was a significant fire there 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Chief Reed was the first in officer as a captain on that fire, and it was a single room, bottom floor though. Fires on the first floor are going to be treated differently than fires on the second floor for sure, because we are really worried about it getting the attic on the second floor. So we get the call, we're getting suited up, I look at the MDT, and the notes on the MDT say, we have an open line, we hear people in the background screaming, evacuate, and an alarm sounding. So in my mind, I'm going, why is this a single engine, single truck? So I tell these guys, we might want to gear up for a fire. So before we get there, they balance it.
We were on a medical aid with Medic 24 off Frizzell and Hillsdale. We already cleared the medic. We were just wrapping up paperwork, got on the engine, started making our way back to Madison, hit AOR, and then we got dispatched for a commercial structure fire at the atrium. Engine 108 was first with Hazmat 109, and then Engine 109, and then we arrived, third engine. Medic 109 was on scene already, and Medic 24 had arrived a few minutes prior to us arriving.
So I wanted to do a quick hasty search and figure out and get some intel so I could relay to units what's going on. So I went through the front door, and there was nobody there. There was no smoke, but I could hear an audible alarm. I could smell maybe just a faint, slight smoke, but there was nothing visible. So I kind of broke off to the right, and I don't know this complex whatsoever. So I broke off to the right, and I could see Hazmat 109 off to the side. I saw nothing down there, and the smell started going away. So I turned around, and I started headed back the other way, and I made a right-hand turn, so now I'm heading towards the Charlie side. And that's when I ran into staff member. And she told me the fire is in room 264. So I relayed that information to command, and then I told her to take me to the actual place because I don't know this building and I don't have a pre-fire plan.
We get there, make entry with engine 108.
Without a room number.
With no room number, there's no apartment number. So, and the place is huge. So we go in and we talk to the front desk staff. They don't really know what's going on. We kind of decide to go to the left. I think I have a slight odor of smoke.
Someone pointed us that way at the door.
Yeah, somebody pointed us to the
We
left.
had audible alarm and all the fire doors are shut.
Yeah.
The smoke doors.
So we get to the stairwell. I report that I might have a slight odor of smoke. By that time, engine 109 arrives and takes command.
Made our way around to the Delta Charlie corner and the Charlie side with nothing visible from the exterior on engine 109. Sean started giving me, they're smelling smoke on the first floor towards the Alpha Bravo corner of the place. And I'm going, okay. We had an open line on the dispatch. People were pouring out at every door. Someone was yelling fire on the dispatch, all this information in the background. And Sean's on the far side downstairs of this building where now the fire is alleged to be. We're hearing reports, I think apartment 264 is what we're hearing. That's the exact opposite of the building upstairs. And Sean's got smoke on the far corner of the building away from there. I'm going, okay. Started funneling some units in to help evacuate people. So I've got multiple units at this point. Engine 108 and Hazmat 109, just trying to find it. And started assigning some units to evacuate. Knowing the structure as well, now it's a second floor apartment. Anyone that's ever seen the attic, it's a common attic through the entire complex. If we get an attic fire in there, it will go 3-4 alarms and we will lose a section of a whole wing of that building if that ever happens. Knowing that, got truck 23 to the roof, rescue 21 I assigned to rescue. I very quickly started running out of resources on the first alarm. So some people ask me why I called for a second so early. It's just that my resources are already going away. We've got an incredible amount of people we need to get out of just the area wherever this is going to be. And I've got smell of smoke on the far side of this massive building. It was good enough for me to get resources in the way and lined up.
So we moved over and down the hallway to the Charlie side, and she showed me upstairs where it was. So I said, okay, stay here. So I ran upstairs real quick and I found one of the fire doors shut to the upstairs. And I opened the fire door and I had smoke down to the ground. So at that point, I shut the door and I tried to notify what I had, but I couldn't get out on radio. So I looked out the window and I saw an engine pull up. And so I was like, okay, I made a beeline downstairs because it was right there. So I went downstairs, ran out, and there was a lot of civilians and a lot of traffic and people were exiting the building. So when I got down there, Captain Katsuyoshi was jumping out of engine 24. Told him that I know where the fire is. It's on the second floor. We need a line up there.
109 had gone to the Charlie side, which is common for that place. If you're in investigation mode, they cruise in 109, 108s will kind of make a lap around the building, kind of get different sides of it. So we staged, and then an apartment number did come up, and so we looked at the complex guide real quick, and we noticed that was in the far northeast corner in that general area. So we decided, like, hey, let's sneak back there real quick and kind of see if we'd be in a good spot, potentially where this fire's at. Just because the interior crews, obviously, engine 108 was basically at that hydrant. I don't know where 109. They were in the far, I think, northwest corner at that point. So we went back there, and at the same time, they're asking for assistance with evacuations on the Alpha side with all the residents.
If I get one more additional engine as they come in here, or truck to the Charlie side, we'll assist evacuation there. And then if I could get a unit, hazmat, are you able to hit room 264 and see if that's where we're at?
Went to the back side. I believe at that point they called command, which was engine 109. Captain Pullis called for a second alarm. We saw a bunch of occupants, elderly occupants, leaving out of the Charlie side in the central part of the building on the back side there. At that point, firefighter Kazi got off, was going to go look at what he had, and we were going to assist with evacuations and any other things that came up. We didn't see any signs of fire when we passed that wing over there, which is where the fire was. And then as soon as I got off, met with him, he said, hey, he's pulling a line because of information that he got.
Traffic into 108. We got signs of smoke on the second floor on the facility side. I have engine 24 initiating fire attack. We need evacuation on the second floor.
Copy that. Battalion 7, let's go ahead and start a second alarm.
When we were arriving, my mindset was that we were going to go in and assist with evacuations. By the time I got off out of the nozzle seat and walked around the engine, I saw an employee. I saw several elderly people and an employee in the back kind of coming out frantically, more so than just like I was thinking maybe she needed help with a handicapped resident or I clued in very quickly there was something more going on than just people exiting the building. And then maybe about 10 seconds after that, Captain Mattioli had come out and asked for a line. By that time, our medic crew, both Santiago and Anthony DeZordo, had basically walked the length of the building to come back towards where we were. We had engine 103. We had firefighter from engine 108 as well. So I had a lot of pieces in place, a lot of extra hands in place already. And given that I didn't see, like Cap said, there was no exterior signs of fire. We just knew that we had smoke showing. Typically, with an unknown situation like that, kind of a longer stretch, I like to have at least 100 feet of hose on my shoulder at minimum. But I had so many extra hands there that I felt comfortable just putting 50 on my shoulder, grabbing the 100-foot bite, and walking it into the front room, and then coordinating how I wanted the hose to be managed over that switchback stairwell. Everyone did a great job in assisting that first line get into place. I feel like we got it into place very fast. Once we got up past that first stairwell, we came to our first set of fire doors, probably 250, maybe 300 feet in. We were able to set up, and we were still trying to identify where the fire was. That happened pretty quick. I'd say we probably had water charged from the time we pulled the line, probably in about a minute and a half tops.
We're working our way around. These guys are in front. They get to one smoke door, open it up. They got light smoke in the hallway. Get to the next smoke door, open it up. Heavy smoke to the floor. So that is a game changer right there. On the second floor, smoke doors are activated. You got heavy smoke in one hallway, and the place is packed with elderly people that cannot self-rescue for the most part. That's when Engine 109 struck, who was command, Captain Poulos, struck second alarm just based on the reports we were giving him. We had no visible fire yet, just smoke.
As it turned out, when the Hazmat 109 made their way with Engine 108 to that Charlie Delta corner and they hit that hallway, they had zero visibility, floor-to-ceiling smoke, and we had a working kitchen fire in one of those apartments. Engine 24 pulled an attack line off the Charlie side, and again, a big thing with this building too is we never saw anything from the exterior, not until they opened up some doors. If we had a more well-involved fire, we would have seen it. Because of some past experiences with other folks with some fires in this building, my plan's always been to go an adjacent apartment on the first or second floor and make entry there, and we'll pull a hose line and we'll go put it out. In this case, we never saw that, so that plan was out the window.
And as I'm going back up, Hazmat 109, Captain Condit and Firefighter Russell were right there. So we had Katsuyoshi, myself, 109's crew right there. We were all masked up. Firefighter brought the hose line, and then we went down the center hallway.
So the search for the fire continued, but having a charged hose line there made all the difference in basically assisting crews once we did identify that fire that we can get water on it quickly, because at that point we were maybe 10 minutes, maybe longer into the incident without any clue of what unit it was in or what if it had extended into the attic, which at the time I didn't realize there was such a large attic space. But the first arriving crews knew that. They were familiar with their first in, and they were able to communicate that. And I think, probably a large reason that second alarm was called early too. The delay in finding the fire and knowledge of that building.
We go to room 265, force that door, there's no fire in there. So we have to start working our way back down the hallway, forcing doors as we go. Finally find the fire in room 261. It's a working kitchen fire. It's not in the attic yet, thank goodness. We knocked it down pretty quick. Our biggest problem at that point is making sure it's not in that attic and making sure we can get some of the smoke cleared out.
Then we continued to search the other rooms because we had a good section of about 10 rooms between fire doors that were shut. So it was blocked off. So the fire doors did their job. But now we had a problem with people possibly sheltering in place, which is a good thing, but we need to get them.
Engine 108, Hazmat 109 took it upon themselves to slow down and learn from historical perspective on some of these large complexes, and chose to investigate, which was absolutely the right call on this large complex, which turned out to be a second floor fire on the Charlie wing. We talk about oftentimes slowing down, get excited and start laying hose lines. There was no hose lines laid down until we found out what was going on. And really that came into engine 24 later in the game. And I know Captain Casciosh is going to say luck came into his placement. But really coming down to listening to radio traffic, not tying up the radio, but all members on the fire ground listening to what was going on from the crews that were inside searching for this. And the progression in what we had as updates from Captain Condit on this was paramount, with I've got light smoke to I've got heavier smoke to I've got fire doors that are working properly. We're opening up the fire door and have heavier smoke. So the needle in the haystack started to make the puzzle pieces come together. Captain Pullis on 109 took command, did an outstanding job about setting the tempo and the tone, remaining calm, getting players in the right location to increase intel, but also very quickly as we got the second call, at the same time he was asking for, I was with dispatch calling a second alarm. We identified a staging location right off the bat at the grocery store, Bella Rayleigh's, at the corner of Fair Oaks, Manzanita, and Cypress Split. So we didn't have all those crews coming in. And really, when we talk about getting this down into complexity of the call, one of the comments I made to Chief Lozano when he showed up was, I'm prepared to, but I'm not willing to go to divisions and groups yet. We needed to get more intel, and I had direct communication with Captain Condit throughout this, and part of that was a high degree of trust, but also relying on historical perspective of a relationship that we always talk about, looking at telestaff, knowing the players, and knowing that I've been on calls with Sean at this facility, but more importantly, the amount of pre-planning and training that we've both done from a historical perspective at this facility. So it was a soothing perspective for me as the commanding officer on this, but also it provided great intel that knowing that if we had a fire, that the next step and priority was going to be really getting up into this unrestricted, heavily open, wide, tall attic space that would have been extremely problematic for life. You know, they encountered, as we would all expect from this facility, the crews inside gave updates on encountering a lot of self-evacuations, which was slowing down crews to get in to find the fire itself. But also we made a determination at one point during this operation that we're not going to actively evacuate any longer, because we had control of the fire doors, but we also had control of where the smoke was going into that Charlie wing. So we didn't want any more evacuations. It was announced over the radio we're going to start sheltering everybody else in place. We already had, you know, probably 50 or 60 people outside on their own, self-evacuated. It was also decided way early on that we made the determination we weren't going to actively go look or start asking for people if they were injured or not. We had enough potential for this to become a heavily large-scale MCI. So my next decision from a tactical or a command level decision was I implemented EMS 24 with additional medics with a staging or a medical location on the Charlie Delta corner, where we did have some smoke inhalation victims that came into that. We did not transport anybody, which was ironic with the amount of people and the amount of smoke we had in the facility. And really what this turned out to be was an isolated kitchen fire that started from a stovetop area, advanced into a little bit into the top cabinets. But once again, the potential for the crews to actively know and discipline themselves of proper hose line placement, good hose line management. I was very surprised to hear when we pulled lines off of 24 how fast that hose line was able to get into the fire location with the amount of degree of complexity from a second story Charlie wing the amount of turns they had to overcome, the hose line management, that was obviously reflective to their training at a crew level. But also crews having the desire to get up into that attic space, and the truck on the roof holding off, having the discipline to not cut a hole, because that would have been problematic. Even though it was a second floor fire, the ventilation at that time would not have been successful. There was no smoke into the attic, and that large attic space, by all definitions, is really just another floor in that facility. This call was absolutely a success because of pre-planning and training, and crews making good decisions once they had known information.
Apparently, I was the only one on this fire that had no idea what the H3 was. Like I said, I thought it was a wing. Thank God I had Eric Berg there because he was aware of the complex. He told me where we were. He knew where the hydrant was, the FDC, everything. So the most stressful part was being first into an unfamiliar area, not knowing where the source was, but knowing something was going on. So I was trying to gather intel as fast as I could for other units. You know, I know I'm in B7. I know people are going to be there quick, so I wanted to give some intel. So I was able to get that out pretty quick, the room 264. The thing I could have done better, and we talked about it in the AAR, was possibly having a Metro pack and sending the female out from one of the neighboring rooms instead of dragging 100, 200, 300 feet of hose line up the stairs and what have you.
Takeaways from this, I think one thing I could have done better, if we want to talk about anything like that, would be, I know this building, Sean knows this building. I didn't realize Engine 108 and Mattioli never even been in this building. I could have given a better update for incoming units as to what this place actually was. Any of us that work in the area know the place. I could have done a better job with that. I think I was painting a picture, though, at least, that the importance of getting people out and locating the fire. That was our main two priorities up front. And then after that, once you located it, suppressing it, I think we ended up sheltering some folks in place in some of their apartments because they couldn't get out on that fire hallway. And in the end, it worked out really well. But again, that's probably in this region, around this area, that's probably our biggest target hazard. And a large seated fire in there we run the risk of definitely running with loss of life of residents there, and certainly a large amount of that structure as well that really got going.
You know, knowing your building is huge. Being able to read your pre-fire plans is huge. Knowing the target hazards in your first in is huge, because we all know what we're going to, and everybody that's ever responded there knows what they're going to. Where we were behind the curve a little bit is the crew on Engine 108 had never worked this area before. The captain on Engine 108 had no idea what this building was when he got there. Still did a great job, but you know, he was relying on us pretty much to coach him through what he's dealing with. So I can't emphasize knowing your first in. You know, it's absolutely huge in a case like this.
Well, and he did a great job too. That was Mattioli on 108, and he, I think, stayed up to the front and kept getting feedback from the maintenance people to get a room number, to get a room number, to get a room number. And we were going up, opening smoke doors, trying to see, is it this side, is it that side? And then we heard over the radio, 265. That's when we started beating feet back around the other side. So without that, it would have took us quite a while to go from smoke doors to smoke doors to smoke doors to knock on doors to kind of figure out what we had, especially with nothing showing from the outside.
Kudos to Captain Poulos. You know, he took command and he called for a second alarm just based on the reports I was giving him, you know, and that wasn't a report of we got heavy fire in, you know, on the second floor in room 261. No, it was, we have a lot of people trying to get out of the building. We're starting to encounter smoke conditions on the second floor. That's when he called for a second alarm. That was a heads up move in this building, and that, you know, that's knowing your first in. That's knowing your target hazards. That's knowing what you have in front of you, you know, and dealing with it based on the information you're being given.
I think the big thing on that one, with a big building like that, is getting recon and then assigning units to where you need them, rather than everybody just dumping in the front door. That's probably one of the biggest things that you got to take home on that building.
You know, you always hear, you know, radio communications sucked. You know, anytime anything goes bad, it's because communications. I was impressed with Chief House in this particular fire because at one point I called for let's hold all traffic, you know, because everybody was starting to talk. So let's hold traffic because I think we're getting close to the fire. I need to be able to coordinate with the people that are going to be putting this thing out. And it became silent on the radio. The guys that are on the hose lines, the guys that are on the chainsaws, the guys that are doing the recon, trying to find the fire, that first 5 minutes of that fire, they need to be able to talk to each other. I don't need to hear that you're setting up this and that and this and that. That's fine, and it needs to be done, but the initial stages of those fires, the guys that are doing the work need to be able to talk.
We're talking about ways of marking the doors and getting like our department on the same page, kind of like USAR does maybe. One hash with a chalk, or I don't know what we would use. Chalk means it's being searched. That room's being searched. You come out, cross it out. Now we know it's been searched.
So we had multiple people that we were keeping everyone in their apartment, putting them on the balcony because we don't want them coming through the smoke. You go and check in on someone, tell them to stay where they're at. It's clear in there, but the hallway is smoked out. You close the door behind you, go to the next one, then you look over. The next crew is opening up that door, putting smoke into that person's apartment again. And it happened probably 3, maybe even 4 times. So by the end of the fire, that person that was in a clear room is now in a smoked out room.
Yeah. Or rooms are getting searched 10 times.
Right.
Or
Yeah, wasting time.
And maybe like a E for evacuated or S for shelter in place. I don't know. We're talking about it, but.
So on a building like that, we talked about too, when you're forcing a lot of doors and there's solid core wood doors set in a metal frame, you don't just kick them, you don't just boot them. You're using irons on every single one. Next time we're going to take our rabbit tool with us, which we didn't take this time for the truck companies that are watching this. That if you can assign somebody that, maybe your team 2 that, just bring it with you at least. It's going to make your life easier. It's hard for us because we don't have an apartment number, we don't know where the fire is. We're all loaded down, everybody's got at least 2 tools, and 2 of us had water extinguishers with us. You're not carrying a whole lot of other stuff, so there's a lot of good ideas out there. The reality is, Zoomy's got a bad hip and I'm getting old, so there we are.
Not me.
I think the takeaway is know your first in, know your target hazards. And there's something to be said for staying in a firehouse for more than 5 years. Learn your first in, own your area. I think that's a good takeaway.
We just got, a lot of it was just luck, a lot of it was past practice at that facility. We got lucky, there was a hydrant right next to our engine. And we had several crews there already, but as we showed up, but as soon as we started stretching lines, additional crews just pulled up right behind our engine, and just, not all fires go like that, where everybody's supporting one line, but it just seemed to work out really well, how everybody just kind of recognized what it was and what needed to get done. And in reality, a water cam would have put it out, a dry cam, but the potential was there.
A big takeaway for me, I'm going to use this fire as an example, in the future, whenever I do decide to take a promotional exam or just running through scenarios or practicing that command presence. I think communications and the way this fire was set up from the very beginning was very good. Everyone was very patient and let people work and put trust in the guys that were doing the work, and then communicated their findings very clearly. And that it's not so much a takeaway other than just a good example of how I think, what I think we're capable of as far as managing these incidents. And that's a testament to this department and how much everyone is trained and really put a lot of effort into developing, command presence and philosophy.
This call was a success because of the players on scene. Had nothing to do with the command and control. I did not want to add complexity. That's why I stated that going divisions and groups, at the time it was in my back pocket, but I didn't want to execute that because at the time it would have added significant complexity. I think I misspoke earlier. So when I set up the staging location, that was my second NBC. My first NBC was Battalion 13, who was on mandatory, which was Chris Vestal, Chief Vestal, and I assigned him. I didn't assign him to anything specific. I gave him direction that I needed more intel and somebody up to give me eyes up on the second floor and accountability. Quite frankly, this could have very easily turned into a catastrophic event. We know that fire doesn't kill, it's the smoke. We had heavy smoke in this hallway. If the fire would have developed into this attic, it would have been a different outcome. I had control and had direct communication with the on-site manager, which I knew is a 24/7 job for this, one person at the front desk. But what I also knew from pre-planning is that he had keys to their shuttle buses. That was in my arsenal to get that as the next stage of getting people off-site. over to the staging area. Another component on this call that was, I would say, somewhat unique, because communication, in my opinion, went well. Why? I'm going to voice my opinion only on this, but I think, once again, the crew's identifying the complexity potential of this call, slowing down, having good tempo, but also recognizing that the potential was so severe that radio communications became to non-superficial information like we typically will find on some fire calls, to the nuggets, the really important updates, the really important messages. So people were disciplined of not getting on the radio with what I would consider just kind of everyday superficial information. I believe everybody recognized, once again, the potential, and we say that word a lot. This building, and if I'm being honest, when I left B7 heading to this, the first call, yeah, okay, we're going to another alarm at 5757 Cypress. The update from dispatch saying confirmed fire, my stomach hit the floor. The accelerator went a little bit faster. The engagement of saying, holy shit, yep, this is going to be catastrophic potentially. What's our next phase of this? And where I'm going with this is I think everybody recognized that I don't need to tie up radio traffic with worthless information. I need to get the airtime when it's important. And was it perfect? Nope. But I got to tell you, on this one, the puzzle pieces came to alignment. And the puzzle pieces came in alignment because of good people on the fire ground doing good firemanship capabilities based on their training experience and pre-planning. Bottom line.